when that revenue is in, if we have to move costs to it, we do that. We didn't capture that in the final amendment, so we needed to move some costs into that from our regular general fund, if you will. And we increased the enhancement budget, but didn't decrease the general fund budget, so that's why there's a $200,000 variance there. We had some money on the table for our software and maintenance, that's all technology related, $140,000. Our repairs and our equipment budget across the whole was under about $140,000. And then utilities and fuel were under $300,000. And then just the miscellaneous for $55,000. So you can see there are several things that kind of attribute, so it's not, one big thing other than Tina and I look at it like, oh, there's room for improvement here for us, but things are gonna happen. So that's what happened, or our end results for this past year. And then what does that mean for our current year budget? Oh, let's do special revenue fund first. Then I'll show you the current year budget. So same thing for special revenue fund. We have our total revenue expense. So remember, our special revenue fund is child care, food service, and our student and school activity fund. So overall positive results, we used a little bit in of fund balance in child care and the student and school activities, and we added just a little bit for food service. So not big results. But now we'll move into our current year budget. So just putting up here, these were some of the assumptions that we had to make when you adopted the budget back in June, because the state hadn't done their budget yet. So the first column on the left is what you adopted as a board back in June for our budget. So you can see we had planned to use about $8.3 million of fund balance, starting with $23.6 million and ending at $15.2 million or 10.77%. The column on the right simply reflects the change, right? We just talked through, we really ended last year with $28 million in fund balance. So this shows the positive impact of that and where that leaves us with this year. Of course, those numbers will change because of the state just passed the budget, and whenever there's adjustments, we'll make those. So Tina and I will start working on a budget amendment, and we'll have something for you at a future month. But certainly positive for here and how it impacts that. But before I move on, because I'm going to talk about the state budget, I want to close out financial statements for you real quick, because there's some other pages that I think it's just good information. On page 1, it gives the auditor's opinion for our financial statements. And it's an unmodified opinion. Remember, they start with assuming everybody's doing a great job and there aren't any issues, and then if they find something, then they modify that opinion. So we are an unmodified opinion. So they, in their opinion, they believe we present fairly all of our financial statements, which is that's the one you want, right? That's the highest one. If you want to know our balance sheet, so if you think about your assets and your liabilities, the things that you owe, if you want to see it for all funds together on one page, it's on page 17. That's always a good one to look at. The budget to actual for the general fund, so what we just looked at on the screen, that is on page 50. And then budget to actual for the special revenue fund is on page 68. Our debt schedules, which I know board members have asked before, community members have asked, well, how much debt do you really have? Our debt schedules begin on page 71. And those we actually post separately as required on our budget transparency page. So it's pulled out of the statements, and so folks can get a quick snippet there. But that can show you each of what we're expected to make for payments twice a year until the life of the bonds are done. Our statistical section, which is not an audited section, that begins on page 78. A lot of great information there. The very last page of that is probably one of my favorites, because that gives you the snapshot of all of the facilities and our properties that we have across the district. tells you the acreage, the square footage of our properties, the last time they were renovated, when it was constructed, so just some great information. And then our federal awards start on page 109. So that shows all of our federal funding, and what we spent this year, what as a memo, what prior year was, and kind of where we landed with that. And then lastly, if you were looking for an elevator speech and someone saying, how did we do financially, right, across the system? If you turn to page 118, it's the very last sheet of paper. This is a great elevator speech. It really shows you the summary of our results, right? So our financial statements as a whole, there were no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies identified, and there were not any non-compliance that was material to the financial statements noted. And then they do the same thing all over again with the federal awards. No material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. You can see our unmodified opinion on there, no audit findings. And then they also let us know the major program on the federal side that they audit. So every year there's a formula, they calculate which program, they're gonna dig a little deeper. They always pull samples for everything across the system. They just pull a few more for the federal side. And so this year it was our what's called our child nutrition cluster. So if you think about our school meals program. And we qualify as a low risk auditee. So there's your elevator speech for you to memorize if anybody asks, or you can point that